Alright, hello friends. I thought that I would just sit down and film a video before I go to work, because I need to film videos more. But here's the thing, I don't really like filming videos, which is weird. Like, that's the whole reason people do YouTube. But, like, my favorite part is editing. I love editing videos. I just feel like I don't really have any ideas to film. So if you have any suggestions, let your girl know, because I don't know what I'm doing. But today we're going to talk about girl problems. Yay! I'm so excited. This is like my favorite thing to talk about. So I want to talk about birth control and periods and stuff because I don't know, this is a normal thing that we should talk about more. Here's the thing. There is not enough research on women's issues in the world, and that is simply because people don't care to do the research. It's stupid. Did you know the only reason... Wait. Did you know the only way you can get diagnosed with endometriosis is for them to cut you open and actually see the endometriosis? There's no other way. They have to cut you open. It's stupid. Anyway, the point is, we need to talk about this more. It's not talked about enough. So, today I am going to be sharing my Nexplanon horror story. Are you ready for a lot of blood? It's spooky time. Yay, Halloween and blood. To preface this story, I'm going to tell a little bit about my history with periods and stuff, just to give you context on like what I'm dealing with here. Alright, so I was a very late bloomer. I did not have my very first period until the summer before my senior year of high school. So I was 17. That's really late. And when I first started, things were pretty rough. Like, I had just really long and really heavy periods and really bad cramps. So after about a year, my periods were to the point where I told my mom I wanted to do something about it. So we went to the gynecologist, and he gave me some birth control pills to help regulate my period and calm down things. So I only took the birth control pills for like maybe a month or two, which I know is not that long, and I should have like given them a real chance because it takes your body a few months to get used to new medication, but I didn't because I'm dumb. Just kidding, don't say that. So I didn't really give it a real shot. All I knew was I just didn't like the way it made me feel. It made me feel weird all the time, not just on my period. My periods, I mean, were much better. They were basically nothing, but I just felt weird and didn't like it. So I stopped taking it. But I feel like taking it for that short amount of time kind of helped regulate things for the next year or so. Then in early 2018, things started getting a little rough again. My periods were just really bad and I had horrible cramps and it was not fun. But at that time I had just started dating my now husband, and we got engaged in April, and so I was like, okay, whatever, I'm gonna go on birth control anyway. We started like researching different kinds, and I decided to go with Nexplanon. For those of you who don't know, Nexplanon is this little stick about this big that they insert in your arm, like right here. They just like stick it right in there. So, and it releases progesterone, a small amount of progesterone to prevent you from getting pregnant. And a lot of people still get periods on that one, if I remember right, which is weird because a lot of IUDs make it so you don't have a period. So don't quote me on that. But, so we decided to go with Nexplanon because it seemed really easy and low-key. And like you just stick it in and you don't have to worry about it for a few years. So I thought that sounded great. I got it inserted in my arm at the end of June 2018. And I knew that some of the side effects were like spotting and random bleeding for the first like 3 months or so. But they told me it's also going to take like 6 months for things to really regulate, and you'll still have a period. So Nexplanon is one of the few that you still have a period with. Like a period, because you're not ovulating. I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but this was just my experience. They told me that I would still have a period, but it would take 6 months for things to really regulate and get back to normal, and then everything would be fine. So got it at the end of June. I spotted a little bit for like July and August. I got married in August and I was bleeding on our wedding day. Not a ton, but like, what you gonna do? I didn't really care that much. And then September, by the time September came around, I was bleeding so much. Like so much. It was insane. It had been going on for like 2 weeks and I was just like tired and shaky and couldn't even stand to sing in choir. And I was just like not doing well. So I called the doctor after 2 weeks of that, called to speak to a nurse. And I was like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, what do you want me to do? And she said, well, unless you're hemorrhaging, then go to the ER. But otherwise, you can take up to 1,800 milligrams of ibuprofen, and that should slow down the blood flow because it's a blood thickener. Which, first of all, ibuprofen is a blood thinner. That's why it works. So that doesn't make any sense. How is that going to slow it down? And that's not going to stop it. That's just making it come out faster? Except she was thinking slower? I don't know. I still don't know what to tell you about that, because that was really weird that she said that. That doesn't make any sense. Anyway, and I was like, okay, thanks, and like hung up, like, what am I supposed to do? So it goes on for another 2 weeks. So at this point, I had been bleeding for an entire month. The entire month of September, I was bleeding extremely heavily, and it was not fun. Because I had just gotten married, and, that's not a great way to start out your marriage, but, whatever. So, at the end of September, I was like, this is unacceptable. I went to the doctor, and I was like, do something. I've been bleeding for a month. She gave me some birth control pills, and was like, just take these until January. Will be your 6-month mark, and then things should be fine after that. And I was like, okay. So I started taking the pills. My bleeding stopped, but the pills made me feel extremely depressed. Like, I'd go to school and come home and just lay on the couch and do nothing all day. And I felt so awful. I wasn't bleeding, but my mental health was not good. So once I got through one pill pack, I did not pick up another one. I was like, I'm not doing that. But thinking back to my previous experience with birth control pills, I was like, maybe this will help regulate things a little bit and it'll calm down. Which it did calm down, but I still bled constantly through November and December and January. Those 3 months, I wasn't bleeding nearly as heavily as I was in September, but I mean, just imagine bleeding for 3 months. Like, it was not fun. And the doctor just really kept encouraging me to keep it for this full 6 months. And I was like, okay, I guess so. But like, this is a piece of crap. So another reason that we went with another big factor of why we chose Nexplanon over any of the other like IUDs and stuff was because they told us that Nexplanon had a 99% satisfaction rate, and that a lot of people loved it and had zero problems with it. And maybe that's true. Everyone I've talked to that has had the Nexplanon, I've not heard one good thing about it. So I don't know where they're getting those numbers from. I'm not trying to scare you from choosing that. I just know that I know now that my body does not like hormonal birth controls. And so I choose to stay away from those. So finally, at the end of January, I was like, you know what? Screw this. It's not getting better. I'm getting this out. So I went in and I got it out. And ever since getting it out, my periods have been really irregular. I mean, like, they've never really been normal, but they've been, like, weird. You might be wondering, like, why did you keep it in that long? Like, you could get it taken out at any time. The thing is, I kept it in because I felt like it was my responsibility to prevent pregnancy in our relationship. And my husband is great. He doesn't make me feel like I have to be on birth control or anything. He was super supportive and awesome the whole time. But I just felt like we had no other option because everyone talks crap about condoms all the time. Like, they don't work and they're ineffective and blah, 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 blah. But guess what? I've been using condoms since January, and it is the best thing that's ever happened to me. I don't understand why everyone hates them so much, because if you use them every time and correctly, they are just as effective as any other form of birth control. We've had zero problems. So, condoms all the way, dude. I'm all for that. I'm not saying I was smart in keeping the Nexplanon in for the full 6 months, because it was a really, really awful experience. I'm just saying, if there's anything you are going to learn from this, it's that it's not your job to suffer just to prevent yourself from getting pregnant. I think there should be a lot more focus on male contraception, and I think condoms are great. And if you don't want to do hormonal birth control, you don't have to. I know a lot of women feel like that's their only option, their only, like, for sure safe option, and that's just not true. You don't have to go through this in order to not be pregnant. And you know, a lot of the times when I would call the nurse and be like, hey, this is what's going on, I don't know what to do, it kind of felt like she was just saying, well, it's your fault for being born a woman, sucks to suck. Like, you have to deal with this because you're a girl. I just was getting, like, no sympathy and no actual help from the nurses when I called them. I think that doctors and nurses in general could show a lot more compassion towards female patients. Actually listen to us. We know our bodies and we need your help. Don't just dismiss us or tell us we're acting crazy. That's not okay. It's your job to help them figure out what's wrong. And there's also a stigma that suffering on your period is normal and that's just the way it is because you're a girl. That's not true. You can do things to improve your situation. You deserve that. You owe yourself that. So, that's my story. It was really hard, but I'm doing much better now, and I don't think I'm ever gonna go on a hormonal birth control ever again. I'm done. I'm done putting hormones in my body. I'm not a doctor, and I might not know what I'm talking about all the time, but this was just my experience, and hope you learned something from it, especially if you are close to getting married or choosing to become sexually active. You need to be educated on these things, and you need to make good decisions, please. Hope you learned something, and go out there and get educated. We need to talk about these things. I'll see you next time. Ew, why did I do that tongue thing? I don't like that. Ugh. I need to pee. Okay, bye.